He literally has 100 queens, and then that isn't enough for him. He also wants concubines. Manticores are so underrated and they need to be used more. I know, this is the worst synopsis for a book ever, and I don't think we have that kind of time. Hello lovely bookworms, I'm Esmay from Paradise of Pages on Instagram and also on Twitter, and welcome to a new video. Today what we are doing is my DesertAthon recommendations video. I promised you guys I would do one, and here we are. I think I have a lot of books, so I'm not going to be talking about them in depth because there's just no time. Otherwise this video would be 40 minutes long, and I don't think we have that kind of time. So without further ado, let's just get into it. I thought we should start with the elephant in the room, and that is, I think, by far my favorite duology ever, definitely in this desert vibe genre, so to say, but I think in general, and those are The Wrath and the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Audier. This is a desert Arabian Nights retelling is what I wanted to say without the desert, but that's fine. This basically follows a girl named Shazi who wants to avenge her best friend Shiva. Shiva was the previous wife of the caliph, of the king, and she's murdered. Every single wife is killed by the king, which is the same in Arabian Nights, and Shazi wants her revenge, so she volunteers and goes to the palace to kill him. And from there on, the story progresses. I absolutely love these. That said, this one fits the red book prompt. This one fits the flower prompt because it's the rose and the dagger, so rose. And I think that these little things on here would also count as flowers because I know that it's a very difficult prompt. I should have definitely thought ahead, but I didn't. Also, if you hear a cat in the background, that's my little Nina. She's also here. So I think you will definitely enjoy these. If you want a desert-vibed book, I cannot recommend these enough. Hence why they're in a recommendations video. So I hope you'll pick them up. For this video, I think, what I should do is put them in the background again. It's been a while. Hopefully I can put all of them in my bookshelves on display so that you can see them. If not, sorry, I'm gonna try. That said, something that I will not be mentioning in this video when coming to the books is that they fit the 5th prompt, so the desert vibe book, because they're all desert vibe books, or at least what I consider to be a desert vibe book. But that said, I will be pointing out the other prompts that they would fit. So let's just continue on with book number 2 or 3, however you want to see it. So book number 3 is one that I've read eons ago, it feels like, and I haven't reread yet, so I can't tell you as much about it as the ones that are right behind me, and that's An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is part of the An Ember in the Ashes series. There will be 4 books in total, but only the first 3 are out now. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands most of the time. This basically follows 3 characters, Laia, Elias, and Helena, and they basically have a lot of problems. I know, this is the worst synopsis for a book ever. So basically, one of the main parts about the story is that Laia's brother gets arrested for treason, and she really wants to get her brother back. So that's one of the reasons behind what she does. And I think for Elias, it is the fact that he wants to escape from, what's it called? I think it's like an academy. Yeah, it's definitely an academy. Elias basically doesn't like this academy and then at some point wants to flee from that, and that is also part of this book. I really can't tell you too much about it because I don't want to spoil the plot, but it is so interesting. There are trials in here which I really like. If I remember correctly, there are also some monsters in this book, so if you want to choose this for the monster prompt, go right ahead. This is definitely Roman inspired, but also gives me that desert vibe that I like in books, hence why it's on this list. And in general, I just really, really liked this book. It was really good. I'm thinking if it would fit any of the other prompts. Yeah, it would. Ember is definitely a warm word. This one reads pretty quickly. The same goes for those two. I will definitely mention which books are smaller and easier to read than others because some of them can be quite dense, but I will show you and tell you as we go. And in general, I just think that this was a really good book, and I think you'll love it. So next up is the only book, or books rather, that I don't own. And those are The Assassin's Curse and The Pirate's Wish by Cassandra Rose Clarke. When I first read them, it was still a duology, but later on, this book has been, or these books rather, have been put into one book that is now called Magic of Blood and Sea. But the reason why I'm also mentioning that there are two books is that I'm not sure if the hardcover of the new version actually shows you where the first book ends, but you can still read them separately if you wish. They're quick to read, they're easy, and they could probably fit 2 prompts, because one, I think it has a red cover, so it matches that one, and there's also Manticore in there, and I think it's specifically in the second book where the Manticore is, which is a monster. He's absolutely amazing though. It's one of the reasons that I love this book so much. Manticores are so underrated and they need to be used more. This gets me riled up. I just love Manticores so much, and I've only encountered one in my entire reading ensemble. That's not a word, but my reading journey. So if you know books with Manticores, please hit me up. That said, this book basically follows a girl that gets herself wrapped up with gin, and it's just so good. Also, something I really love, what this book doesn't have, is insta-love. There's no insta-love whatsoever in this book. There is romance, so a nice sweeping romance is also great. And they just basically move around desert areas, and I love the characters, and I love the gin, which is also technically a monster if you want to see them that way. And in general, I just love these so much, and I think you will love them too. Okay, let's get to a book that, in my opinion, is a little bit more dense, but also a quick, I can't really say quick, a faster read than some other dense books on this list. I think that's the best way to put it. And that is Furyworn by Claire Legrand. I actually recently finished Kingsbane, so I can tell you a little bit more about this book now that it's fresh in my mind. And basically this is about 2 girls, Riel and Eliana. They both live about 1,000 years apart, and the premise of this is that one of them is the Sun Queen and the other one is like the Dark Queen. I think it's a Blood Queen. Yeah, the Queen of Light and the Queen of Blood. And you don't know who's who, and this is just amazing to read. I loved reading both of their storylines and basically just seeing what happened in the past that sort of shifted and changed the future. It's just so amazing to read. I think the characters are well written, the story itself is really dense and really well done, but still I remember flying through this, and I'm sure you will enjoy it too. Speaking of, by the way, if you want to see these as flowers or like something along those lines, I'm okay with that. It's a difficult prompt and I am trying to help you as much as possible. Let's move on to a very short and quick book, and that is The 100th Queen by Emily R. King. This basically is about a girl named Kalinda who is chosen as the 100th Queen. And she lives in a convent before this, or sisterhood, I think rather, and from there on her story progresses. She meets so many interesting characters. It is definitely this desert Arabian sort of kingdom, and there's a caliph, basically the king, who's an interesting character, to say the least. And there is so much strife among the queens. He literally has 100 queens, and then that isn't enough for him. He also wants concubines. So there's a lot of characters in here, and in general, I think you will enjoy this. It is pretty small, but there are 4 books in this series, so you can basically pick all 4 of them up and fill quite a few prompts. It's a red cover, so I got you covered there. That was a horrible pun, but I'm sure you will enjoy this as much as I have. It's quick, it's easy, and it's also very enjoyable. I'm pretty sure you can no longer see the book, but it's behind me. See? It's right there. Let's move on to one of my absolute favorites on this list, and also one that I think I read most recent for the first time, and that is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. Again, warm word, just to get that out of the way. Got you covered. This one is a quick read, but also a bit more dense than the one I just mentioned. This follows a girl named Severa, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Severa. Anyway, Severa here is a hunter, and then she gets the quest to basically save the world, and there she meets Nazir, the Prince of Death. And Nazir, I want a Nazir. Let's just keep it at that. I also really want an Altair, who is his second in command, I think. And they meet in the most strangest way, at least I thought, and the journey itself is just so incredible. I cannot wait for the second book. This is a duology, so maybe it's a bad recommendation to give because you want the second book once you finish this book, but I'm gonna give the recommendation anyway because it's amazing. It is definitely a action-packed book. It is a little bit insta-lovey, but not in an annoying way, if that makes sense. I loved it. And in general, I just want to read it again. It is absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait for the second book. So the next book is one that I read a long time ago, but really loved, especially for how small it is, and that is Rebel of the Sands by Elwyn Hamilton. This one is basically about Amani. Amani lives in, I think it's Dustwalk? Yeah, Dustwalk, and she really wants to leave this town. She lives with her aunt, I believe, if I remember correctly, and she wants to get the heck out of there. And once a stranger comes along, she gets this opportunity. She does, and that's where her adventure starts. It's just such a well-written book. It's very small, and what I also really loved, this is a trilogy. All 3 books are already out, so you can just continue on reading. So the first one is Rebel of the Sands, and then I have the other ones here. I quickly grabbed them, and the second one is Traitor to the Throne, which you can see is huge in comparison. This one is also very political, and this one is more action-packed, which I really loved. And the final one is Hero at the Fall. This one came out, I think, in 2018, something along those lines. It is an amazing book. This has a red cover. So if you want to read a very good desert vibe-inspired trilogy, I can definitely recommend this, but I think for this readathon, I would go for Rebel of the Sands if you haven't read it yet. And how stunning are the paperbacks. I just wish that the hardcovers would have these covers. They don't. So I keep to the paperbacks. That said, it's an amazing trilogy and I think you will enjoy it very much. This already gets us to the second to last book, and this one is a standalone, and that is The Forbidden Wish by Jessica Curry. This is a retelling slash sort of twisted tales of Aladdin and the genie. And in this one, the genie is a girl named Zara. Aladdin finds the lamp, he finds Zara, and from there on, their story starts and progresses. This is so filled with political but also action and beautiful sweeping conversations that I flew right through this. This one is pretty quick to read as well. I think I actually recommended this in my standalone video, but it's definitely worth it. It's such a good book, and ooh, I nearly dropped it. And I think you will love it as well. I have one more book here, and I think this is not necessarily a good recommendation for this week, unless you want to read one book, because it is very dense, it's very big. It took me a while to finish, and that is The City of Brass. I kind of saved the best for last. This is, I think from this list, apart from The Wrath and the Dawn, my favorite. I love this story. If you've already read The City of Brass, I can also recommend The Kingdom of Copper. That one is just as amazing. I think I have it right here. And that's The Kingdom of Copper. I love these so much. They are beautifully written, they're dense, they are stunning. They involve jinn, so if you want a monster, there you have it. And this is basically about a girl named Nari who is in such a predicament that she summons a jinn, and that's Dara Yavaush, if I am pronouncing his name correctly, and she finds herself on a journey to the City of Brass. And it is just such a well-written book. I know that this is a horrible synopsis, but just know that I love this oh so much, and I think you will too. I think that said that it would be a better recommendation for later, because I don't think you can get this finished in a week plus 4 other books, but it is stunning and definitely worth the read. Those were actually all the recommendations I have for you right now. That said, my TBR is coming and there will be a couple more recommendations in that one, but the reason why I can't really recommend them to you is because I haven't read them, so I can't tell you whether they're something that I would recommend to you, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I love them. And these are all books that I know I have really enjoyed and love, and I'm positive to say that I think you will too. That said, I think you have a lot of recommendations here to choose from. If you pick one of them, please do let me know. I am always interested to see what you guys think of my favorite books. Please don't burn them. That said, that is everything for this video. I really hope you will join me for the DesertAthon, and if you do, please make a TBR, whether that's on Twitter, Instagram, or on YouTube. I would love to see what you picked out, and I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!